Hello and welcome, Janet Beckers here, and nearly the end of the year. I hope that you have had a fantastic Christmas time with your loved ones. And if you're like me, and like most people, as well as having a chance to relax now you're really thinking about the new year. There's lots of talk about what are you going to be doing next year? What are your plans? What are your goals? Now, I've got lots of other resources that I've been sharing with you this month on how to plan for next year. But today I wanted to share with you the very first step that I do every single year before I finalize my plan for the final year. And it's a really important step to take. And fortunately, it's also a really fun one. So what I'm going to share with you today is a ritual, really, that I have been using with my family now for 12 years. And it's something that ends your year with a sense of celebration, with a sense of energy and optimism that you bring in to the new year. So I'm going to share with you why it is important to do this activity now. If you haven't, next year you may even do it a little bit earlier, but really important to get this done before January. Why it's important to do this, and then we're going to walk you through step by step exactly how to do this and how to actually make it a bit of a ritual with you and your loved ones. It's a really exciting activity. So let's get started, and I shall share with you what it is. Now, every single year I do what is called a celebration board. Now, why? I'll show you in a moment what actually one looks like. But why do you want to do this? Well, when you are leading into doing your planning for the next year, normally around about this time of the year, you could be feeling really overwhelmed, quite exhausted. You know, there's a lot of expectations, a lot of demands on your time and your energy at this time of the year in your business and also just personal. You know what it's like, you know, getting the Christmas presents, organizing whose place are you going to go to at what time, all of those sorts of things that take a lot of your headspace up. And it's also a time of the year where if you haven't already done your planning for next year, which you really should have, but even if you haven't and you're going to be really focusing again or reviewing your plan for the next year, you can be looking back at your previous year, like the one that you've just finished, and thinking a sense of, I haven't got anything done. You know, I set myself these huge goals, or they didn't even seem huge at the time, and what have I done? I haven't achieved them. Or if I have achieved them, you may be thinking, how am I going to do better next year? Or how am I going to build on this? Or how am I even going to have the energy to be able to continue to do this? These are really normal things. And I tell you what, when you are coming in to doing your plan for the next 12 months, or reviewing your plan that you have already done, which is just a really normal thing for you to start doing at this time of the year. If you are bringing that energy of, of frustration, of disappointment, or if you're bringing in that energy of, I've got to get all this done before the end of the year, that panic, that sense of tasks and to do, if you bring that energy into your planning for the next year, you're going to be thinking two things. One is it's going to be small. You're going to be really bringing a task energy, a to-do energy into your plan. And that's going to really limit what kind of plan you're going to do. And it will very often mean it's going to be the same old, same old. And the other thing that it's going to do if you bring that energy in is you very often will not be able to think creatively about what is possible. And so you can be bringing in a very small-minded sort of energy that comes into it. So we don't want to do that, because we want to make your next year the best year yet. Even if the year that you're just finishing has been your best year yet, or it's been the worst year yet, we want to make next year your best year yet. So to do that, we have to make sure that we're bringing in the right energy. So the exercise that I'm going to share with you is actually a really enjoyable thing to do. But the whole purpose of it is to really acknowledge the different things that you have achieved this year. Now, if you're thinking, well, I haven't done much, just stick with me, okay? So it's going to acknowledge and celebrate the things that you have achieved that year, and to be bringing in a sense of gratitude, a sense of well-being, and a sense of clearing out the panic, clearing out the overwhelm and the heaviness of the to-dos, because we want to bring in that beautiful, optimistic, confident energy into the plan that you're going to be creating. So this is a really important step to do, and fortunately it's a lot of fun. So let me introduce you to the celebration board. Now, this started, the first one that I did was in 2007. So let me just show you. See this big rolled up paper? I'll just see if you can see the end of it here. Like it goes, whoa, can you see that? Layers on layers on layers. So 2007 was our first one, and so as I'm recording this, this is the end of 2018. So this will be number 12 that we have done. Now when I say we, this is something that I do with my husband and my 2 children. So I'll give you a look of what one looks like so you can see. And also on the podcast page, I will put some photos for you. I'll blur out the details simply because this is not just me. This is also everybody else in the family. But what we do is we get a great big sheet of paper, lots of coloured textures, put the year in the middle, so this one's 2016, and each person's name is on there. Now, it's a little bit hard for me to be able to show you here because, as you can see, it's really quite big. So let me run over with you what we've done here so you can get an idea. Now, I really love to be able to involve my whole family in doing this, because the reality is that you know, it may be your family, or it may be friends, it may be your dog and you. A dog usually makes it every single year, but it's really lovely to be able to do something like this with the people who are impacted by what happens with you on a day-to-day basis, and you're impacted by what's happening with them. It's a really lovely thing for you all to get together and acknowledge and record everything that you have done. Now, what we do, and so the first one we did was in 2007. Now, my youngest was 8 at that time, and my eldest was almost 12. So they were, you know, they were young. Now, as you would probably know with kids that age, sometimes you've really got to convince them to do something that means that they're going to sit down for more than 5 minutes. So the first few years that we did this required me doing a lot of cajoling. Now that we are in 2018, I've got a 20-year-old and a daughter who's nearly 22. Or the time that you see this, she will be 22. Her birthday's just before Christmas. So that's pretty different. So we've been doing this every single year. So now we have our children instigating it, going, when are we going to do the celebration board? We've got to do it. What date are we going to do it? And they're really looking forward to actually creating this celebration together as a family. In fact, this year, as a, you know, a sign that, you know, that we will have to be changing how we're doing it, is my son, who's just turned 20, has just taken off with a 3-month visa for traveling in India and a backpack, and no plan beyond the first 4 days, and he's gone. But he did say, well, we can't do this before I leave because I'm going to get so much exciting things that I want to put on the celebration board before the end of the year. So we're going to do it via Skype, and we're going to work out how we're going to get his contribution onto our big family sheet. But that's, so it doesn't even have to be that you're going to have the people who you want to do this with need to be together. But I'm sharing it with you here around Christmas time because I know that there's a very good chance that you may be with your loved ones at the moment. So don't let distance be a barrier. It can be a really nice thing to be able to do virtually. So how does it work? The whole idea is that we get together using a creative way. So we do coloured textures, lots of drawings. Some people who I've taught this to like to use photos or magazines or things like that. We just keep it simple, and we set ourselves well, I had to set a time frame when the kids were little just to promise them that it was nearly over. But now that they're bigger, you know, we we'll set aside, we'll make a date and we'll set the time to do it. Now the idea is that you spend the time going over every single thing that you have done that year. And I'll go through the steps on how do you do this. All the different things that you have done this past year, that may be in your business, that may be in your hobbies, that may be activities, different, excursions or different special events that you've had during the year, special times that you just have with loved ones, things that were of personal growth to you, challenges that you may have had. But we're not going to focus on the bad things. We're going to focus on, how were they good? What did you get from those? And so doing this, especially as a family, is a fun thing, because there's a lot of times there's things that we did together that we want to be able to do like a combination. So there's often lots of arrows going on ours. And, the dog even gets to celebrate, that he got to go to the beach a few times a week, or, little things like that. So that's the whole idea, is that we're going to be putting that beautiful celebration into what you are doing. Now, what we do with ours when we've completed it is we actually put up that year's one, we put it in our living area. And sometimes it might go in the hallway to one of the bedrooms, or at the moment it's up near where we do all of our painting, because where I've got a house where there's always artworks happening. And it just means that, as you know, every now and then you might walk past and you'll have a look at it and go, oh, that's right. That was really cool that that happened. So we actually live with it for the year, which is really nice, which is why the latest one that I've got here is from 2 years ago. So let me go over just some of the things that were there from last year, from 2016, 2 years ago, that I can just see on this one. And then I'll guide you through how you can do this for yourself. So for example, if I have a look at mine, sorry, this might be a bit noisy. So we've got, each of us sort of sits around it, so it's all at different angles because we're all sitting around a table. So for me, I've got to turn it around. This might be a bit noisy, sorry. So I've got things here like for business-wise, that I launched my video marketing program. Relaunched it. I ran workshops, and my daughter, who was studying event management at the time, actually came along and was my event manager. So we got to travel while we did those workshops. So that was a big event. We also did things at that particular year. I was the patrol captain for our surf club, for our patrol, and we actually won the best patrol of the year, which was pretty awesome. And then I had a bit of fun because they left it up to me to put the embroidery on the winning jacket, so I changed it and put most awesome patrol as the official embroidery on the jacket. So I've got there a picture that I've done there. I've also just written there about some fantastic camping and kayaking that I did with my husband. I also put here, now here is an interesting one. My mum was really sick that year. Now I could have very easily have put down here that was a negative, because I spent a lot of time with my mum. She was very sick and I went there, but you know what? I put down there that I got to care for my mum. I was able to be there. That was something that was a real positive from that. I've also been able to put things here like, swimming, going swimming with my friends, a weekend away. Actually, I've even written down about a particular meal I had when we were away because I really liked it. Some weddings we went to. When I was over in the United States, that I was masterminding. I'm in high-end mastermind, but I also made sure that every single time I went over there for mastermind, I stayed longer and explored. So that was a pretty good year. That was a pretty full-on one. We've also got things like, my kids have put things here about, this one here, my son was finishing high school. So for him, he put down about all the different, even though, yes, he was studying for his HSC, we've got there about all the different festivals and bands he went and saw, because he's just obsessed with music. And we also put about, he took over being patrol captain from me. He got a beautiful girlfriend. There you go. She was beautiful. Still is beautiful. My husband put down lots of things to do with his art and his gardening and his work. We put down about, we bought our first Aboriginal art as an investment. My daughter and I, all these different things that we did together, and and going and seeing Macklemore together. I was probably the oldest person in the audience, but I was probably the loudest as well. So that's, you know, just giving you an idea of the kind of things that we would write. I'm just going to throw that down there. So for me, that was a great year. We had a lot of fun, but also at that same time, as you saw, you know, I was doing a lot of caring for my mum who was sick. But so that was actually taking a lot of my time. I could have very easily just focused that on a negative. So you can see there's all different positive things. So even just me reading that out, I'm feeling a real sense of achievement. But I do know that before I went to start that, I was going, oh yeah, I did a little bit of traveling this year. That was really cool. But oh, look, you know, there was always that sense of frustration of, you know, there always is everywhere we set ourselves big goals. I didn't get everything I wanted to get done. Hey, but after that, I felt really, really good about myself. So that is the purpose of you doing this. So let me run you through exactly how do you create your own celebration board and create a ritual around that. So these are the steps. Number 1, decide who you want to do this with. You can do this on your own. Sometimes, especially when the kids were younger, I would do it on my own to start with because I really wanted to do my planning and I wanted to get this energy. And then I would do it again with the family. So sometimes there were 2 sheets that I had, and that's okay. You can do it more than once. So decide who you're going to do it with. Are you going to do it on your own? And then are you going to do it again later as a family, as a ritual that you do with your family? It's a really lovely bonding thing to do. So decide who you want to do this with. And decide then, how are you going to do it? Are you going to do it as a virtual thing, or are you going to do it together? The next thing you want to do is set the date of when you are going to do it. Set a date and a time, and everybody sticks with that. I just sat there on the, you know, who are you going to do it with? I was running through this with my Rising Stars clients this week. I was doing this exercise with them, and one of them was saying what she's actually going to be doing it when she's got the whole family together, including her kids' partners, because they're a big part of the family as well. So that's, you know, that's going to be a big part for her, is it's the extended family ritual. You may decide to do that as well. So set your date. Now the next thing is every single person needs to prepare, because it is amazing how you forget what you've done. Now social media is fantastic for this, so I always go back through my all the photos that I've had in my last 12 months on either Facebook or Instagram. Now for you, you may not do much of that on social media. You may go through the photos that you've got on your phone. That may be your trigger for that. You might go through your calendar and look at the different things that you do. Especially with business, you may not have documented those so much through photos, but go through your calendar. Maybe even go through your emails looking for big things, wherever it is that's going to help you to try to remember the things that were significant for you that year. And that also includes the things that you could perceive as a real negative. You know, you might have had some sickness in your family or yourself. You may have even had deaths in your family. You may have had a time of where you just were feeling depressed and could not feel motivated to do things. They still count, okay? They are really significant. Because then what we're going to do is when we get together, which is the next step, first of all, you're going to get, you know, you need your materials. We get like a big piece of paper. You know, we can go down to, you know, the newsagents and get a nice big sheet of paper. We just find the bigger is better because it just allows you to be freer. We get either coloured textures or coloured pencils, and really that's all you need. Okay, you don't have to complicate it. So you've got to get those. Now, why did I say about including things that may be really negative? Because what we're going to do here now is we're going to get our own little corner, and we're going to be creative with our colour, and we're going to put down those significant events. And these are a really nice thing that you'll be discussing them with each other as you're going. And it allows you to process. So even those negative things is to look at, to acknowledge that they happened. And then to look at what was something that you can see as a sense of achievement around that. It may be, in the case when I was talking about, you know, you may have been feeling really depressed, is, you know what, I kept on going. Or it may have been, you know, if there was something happened with your business that you know, you didn't get the results you wanted, but you can be putting in there, you know what, I did the work. I learnt a lot through there. celebrate the wins and celebrate the learnings as much as the wins, okay? So what you're going to do now is just take that time is to just draw, whichever one you to do. If you want to do drawings or you just want to write words or a combination, whatever works for you. And each person can do it differently, you know, however they want to. My husband's, I have to kind of guess what they were for that year because his is always just drawings, but they're really, he knows what they are straight off. They're triggers to remind you. So this is, take that time to actually talk amongst each other and go to each other. I remember when this happened, or yeah, you know, remember with that. And be honest with yourself, because it doesn't have to be anybody else sees this. We put it up somewhere where we as a family can see it, but you don't have to. You know, it can just be you. So that's the next thing, is to take that time to really process. Now the next step is to look at what you've done and really acknowledge, just soak up that energy of, you know what, things happened this year. This was my life. And you know what, really focus on the things, the learnings that you had and what you were grateful for. And, you know, I can remember one year that's in that pile there where my business really, it stagnated. And that was for quite a few reasons. One was I had kind of outgrown the business, but I wasn't admitting it to myself. And so I wasn't enjoying it as much because I was ready for the next step, but I was holding on. But also it happened to happen at the same time that my mother had gone through a period where she was really unwell. She had a tough couple of years, you know, she's getting older, and she had a lot of problems with the heart. And so for me, I think, well, you know what? Every single week I travel 2 hours to be with her. Every single week to take her to the doctors. That is something to celebrate, and that is okay that other things fell apart. Not fell apart, but didn't grow. Because that was what my priority was that year. So allow yourself to really look at it and to be able to acknowledge things that that you learnt, and really acknowledge the things that went really, really well. And just acknowledge yourself, okay? Because that's the energy that we want to bring in. Now, when you're taking this energy and you're going to be planning for the next year, and I have a whole process that I use for planning for the following year, is the first thing is you want to bring that energy in. Now you want to look at what you've done and go, you know what things that happened, you know, in this last year, what things do I'm really happy about that I want to build on. So you can make sure when you're planning your next year that you're going to make sure that you do that. For me, looking at that particular year, I know for me a lot of that was I was traveling a lot, which I loved, but I wasn't doing it with my husband. So for me, I put down, you know what, I want to do more weekends away. I want to do more kayaking. I want to do things just with my husband, which is what we did. So those are, you know, they were learnings. What do you want to do more of? And what were things that you had as big lessons that you don't want to repeat that lesson? But what can you take from that to build into the next year? But if you had seen all of those things as failures or whatever, you can't bring that energy forward. But if you're celebrating the learnings that you had, you can bring that into the next year. Okay, so this is a fantastic ritual for you to be able to introduce to your own family. As I was saying, the first time I started doing this, I had an 8 and a 10-year-old. Now I've got a 20 and a 22-year-old, and we are still doing it. And there's no way that the kids want to stop doing it. It's probably going to be something we're going to be doing for decades. And I tell you what, it is fantastic, because what we also do is every year now we open up all the previous years and we go over and reminisce and celebrate again. So it's a really beautiful ritual to have, and a really important, actually very strategic thing for you to do before you set any big planning and visualizing for the next year. And if you've already done your plan for the next year, revisit it after doing this exercise and see if there's anything that you want to change. Okay, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, so I would love very much if you can share with me if you've done this, if you've done it in the past, because I know I share this every year. If you've done it in the past, I would love to hear from you. You know, have you made it a ritual? How is it impacting your life? if you do one, I would so love it if you would share a photo with me. So either come over onto Instagram or Facebook and share a photo of your celebration board. I would love to be able to see that. Just come and share that with me as well. And let's use a hashtag celebration board. That would be a fantastic thing to do. So come over on Instagram, come over on Facebook and share that. And then you can search on that tag and see if you can find what everybody else has been doing. That would be super cool. And just leave comments down below on the podcast page. I'm not quite sure if you can upload images there, but if you can, I'm not quite sure if you can, that would be extra awesome as well. All right, so I would love to hear from you. And again, you know, I hope you're having a really beautiful time with your family or your loved ones. Or just also if you're wanting to just be alone, if you're getting some time for some space to yourself, I hope that you're actually doing what you want to be doing at this time of the year. And I'm really, really looking forward to helping you as much for next year, because I've got some pretty exciting things planned to really help you. I'm super excited about them. Okay, bye.